A very warm welcome to each of you and thank you for taking time out to catch us live. At SixSox, we believe that each one of us has the capability to be a winner. We welcome all of you with open arms as our goal is to serve, learn, share, and reach beyond. In addition, we are here for you with any assistance that you or your organization might need on a group or individual basis. Six Ox classrooms are where we deliver quality to the best of our capabilities. Do reach out to us to know more. Today, we bring to you our fourth session in the Balance series. A permanent student, always ready to learn, TP Anand has over 35 years of working experience, and for the past 10 years, he has been advising the SME sector on business planning, business process improvement, and strategic planning. He helps companies set themselves up on a path of excellence. He believes strongly in engaging himself in three dimensions: direction, discipline, and distinction. He's a great mentor, philosopher, and guide, helping people achieve their goals. He also works closely with the Business Excellence Award offices all across UAE and is always passionate about his commitment to achieve results. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. TP Anand with his talk titled Pros and Cons.
Good evening, everybody. A very warm welcome to this talk on pros and cons. I was wondering why Deepa was telling that I have 35 years of experience when actually I have 40 years of experience. Then I realized that, out of those 40 years, 5 years cannot be counted as experience because I didn't weigh the pros and cons when I took some decisions, which had actually set me backwards by probably 5 years in my career. Pros is actually a Latin word which means for. Every time we think of a situation, whether it is a personal situation or a business situation, we need to weigh the points that are for the decision and the points that are against the decision. We call it the advantages and disadvantages. I'm going to now take you through different aspects where we need to be really careful in looking at the pros and cons before we jump into decision. And I'll try and explain them in context of what I have done probably in my personal life or in business, what I have seen people do. So let me share my presentation. So the first thing that comes to our mind is, are we taking decisions which are in the long term or are we taking decisions which are in the short term? And is it a decision where the repercussions could be felt in different parts of our business or different parts of our life? I remember 40 years ago when I started my career as a job typist in Mount Road, sitting in Chennai, I had to weigh the pros and cons, but I didn't, because I was thinking, why am I spending 2 rupees and 30 paisa on a square meal in the afternoon? Can I replace that meal with something else? And then I found there is a substitute, which was cigarette. So I started smoking, and I thought if I smoke 4 cigarettes in a day, then the hunger comes down and the urge for having a meal in the afternoon comes down. So the cost of those 4 cigarettes those days was 24 paisa, but the saving was actually 2 rupees and 6 paisa per day, which was quite substantial, and it looked to be a great decision. But little did I realize that I should have actually looked at it in the long term with my health in perspective. And of course, God willing, I realized my mistake quite soon. And then I decided that I should have weighed the pros and cons of ensuring that I always took a strategic decision after weighing the pros and cons. And of course, tactical decisions do come along the way, and we do make those tactical decisions. but those tactical decisions can be corrected very quickly. But the strategy or the strategic decision or direction we take, it's not easy for us to correct the course. That's where I realized in my own life that we'll have to think differently. And that led me to start thinking that I should look at long term as a separate decision and also look at short term as a separate decision. The reason why I say long term versus short term is because many a times we jump into decisions not realizing that it is going to give us benefits only in the short term. I was comfortable working for a CA firm in Chennai, drawing a very small salary and running around 60, 80 kilometers a day from one client to the other. And I never thought in the long term because suddenly I realized that this running around and feeling good and happy about what you do in the short term is okay. But when you look at long term, then this is not going to carry you really far in life. That's when I realized that staying in India and working for an audit firm and restricting myself and my growth is not the right thing to do, because I had an obligation to my family. Plus, I had my own ambitions and dreams in life. And one of my long cherished dreams was to go to Singapore, just to see the city, nothing else. And I kept dreaming about it. So eventually, I landed up in Singapore in 1990, and that's where my actual long-term journey, career-wise as well as in my personal life, began. But the reason why I took that plunge was because I moved from a short-term thinking to a long-term thinking. And once I moved out of India and once I started seeing different people, different cultures, and when I started examining the decisions, it also dawned upon me that on many occasions we do tend to move away from ethical practices. Now, to me, ethics is not a religion or a science. To me, simply put, ethics is difference between good and bad. Whatever we do, if we can weigh the good or bad or the correct or the incorrect, and to me, what is correct in terms of my actions, whether they are in personal life or in business, or actions where it is fair to me as well as fair to the others who are around me, who might get impacted by those decisions either directly or indirectly. So to me, I always look at it by asking questions. What are the advantages of taking this decision? What are the disadvantages of taking this decision? Is it fair to me? And is it also fair for the others who are around me who might be impacted by this decision? And there, I must tell you that when we maintain a certain level of honesty, when we maintain a certain level of etiquette in doing actions all through the day, morning to night, automatically we will ensure that at no stage we are going to compromise on our own value systems. That's how one could stay ethical and not embark on unethical practices. And I've seen in business as well as in personal life that the focus starts with customer centricity but ends up in profit centricity. Companies start by saying we are here to serve the customer, but then down the line they start thinking, yeah, customer anyway is there. Why am I not thinking about profitability? And when they become profit centric, businesses tend to lose sight of customers and customers' interest. Now, the best blend, in my opinion, is to have a profitable customer. Even in personal life, we do meet people, we do interact with the society, and we do have an expectation from the others for demonstrating a responsible behavior. That's where I feel it should be customer centricity all through. But for us to stay above water, yes, of course, being profitable is important. So each time when we interact with customers, then we should think, is that customer a profitable customer? And then we can decide to continue that relationship and nurture that relationship. And this is something where it's important to weigh the pros and cons of being customer centric, because we are in business only because of the customers. And the reason why we are in business is because of customers. And if that customer centricity moves, probably we may not continue in that business. And talking about business, I'm sure immediately the thought comes around good quality and bad quality. We do face the quality issues time and again. And I want to say here that the definition of quality is important. And the definition of quality is delivering on a consistent basis what has been promised to the customer, meeting the needs of the customer, exceeding the expectations of the customer on a consistent basis is good quality. So whether the quality is good or not, I cannot decide. It is for the customer to decide and let me know. If the customer is not happy, that means I have delivered bad quality. Even in personal life, we do deal with our family, we do deal with our peers at work, we do deal with our subordinates, we do deal with our superiors, we do interact with the society at large, and we have to think, are we delivering value on a consistent basis? Are we meeting the expectations of others? Is that a responsible behavior? If the answer is yes, then we are definitely delivering good quality. And that's where the pros and cons, weighing them at each stage, will help us to be in the righteous path. And I have seen time and again in my life, the conventional wisdom definitely helps in taking decisions. I do go back to basics. I do go back to my books. I do go back and refer to what is conventional way of doing things. But guess what happens in life? With the change in technology, with the change in the way business is done, with the change in the way life takes us through, we do have to look at these radical modern developments and techniques. We can't lose sight of the radical modern developments. And while we look at these radical modern thinking, which is so important in life, the conventional wisdom which we carry will always help us. I started my career back in those days by doing lectures using overhead projectors. Now we don't have overhead projectors anymore. There are no overhead projectors. We use PowerPoint presentation, and we use mediums like the Zoom or the Teams to interact with students. And we are having live interactions now without the use of those contraptions called the overhead projector and blackboard, and those are all gone now. So we need to move with the times. But while we move with the times and adapt ourselves into the radical modern thinking, it's important for us not to lose sight of conventional wisdom. That's where, again, while adopting the radical modern thinking, we need to look at the pros and cons of what is good and what actually will bring us the desired outcome. And talking about conventional wisdom and modern thinking, I must say that in the last 2 years, we have seen a dramatic paradigm shift from the pipeline to the platform. I've seen so many restaurants opening in Karama where I live. I see those flyers coming along with the newspaper. I see the flyers being thrown below the door in my house. And in the last 2 years, I'm not seeing those flyers anymore. Nobody is printing the flyers to announce that a new restaurant is opening. Nobody is sending those flyers to say, come and try this particular dish and we are specialists in this dish. Those days are all gone. building inquiries and getting the leads and then working on them, converting those leads into hot leads and then negotiating and then finally converting them into a customer order is old school of thought. Over the last 2 years, we find for each and everything there is a platform, and when you go into that platform, you automatically choose the kind of target audience with whom you want to communicate, and the communication is orchestrated towards reaching to that specific audience. So again, there are still people who think that the old pipeline system should work. It's important to weigh the pros and cons and then decide, should I still be in the old pipeline or should I move into a platform? If yes, then which is the right platform for me and at what cost? And I find that with all the developments around us, with all the complexities that are growing on a daily basis, we find that many a times people are slipping away from the line of integrity. And when they slip out of the line of integrity, they kind of give a reason by saying, oh, it's a business compulsion, I had to do this. And it's a business compulsion that I need to do certain things in order to make sure that my business will survive. Now, it's not necessary that you will do things and ensure your survival. And it is not necessary that only when you do certain things in the name of business compulsion, your business will survive. Not really. I was embarking on my first journey to Singapore. I went to my family doctor and told him, doctor, I smoke, so should I take an X-ray? I don't want to land in Singapore and then get rejected. I don't want them to find that I'm a chronic patient of something or the other. So he looked at me and said, no, you don't need an X-ray. Go home, it will be expensive for you. Don't take an X-ray. I kept insisting, and then the doctor said, look, the X-ray will cost you 60 rupees. You just go to Pandian studio and take a photograph and request for the negative. I'll look at your negative and tell you whether your lungs are clear or not. But negative is good enough for you. This will cost you 8 rupees, that will cost you 60 rupees. Now, if the doctor wanted, he could have actually written a recommendation for an X-ray and made a 20% cut on the X-ray that I took. But that's where we are being open and we are being clear in telling people, look, this is what I suggest you do. And that's where we don't hide things under the so-called business compulsion. And in today's context, learning, not only in today's context, it has been the case forever, learning stops only at the grave. But what I find is people are either learning or they are earning, but they are not finding a balance between learning and earning or earning and learning. Now, with the pandemic setting in over the last 8 months, we have seen so many people have a problem in actually earning for their normal livelihood. This is a very serious situation. But what is keeping the spirits alive and what is keeping these people motivated, positive on the future outlook is while they are not earning, they are actually learning some new skill. They are actually learning some lessons in life to make themselves better citizens or better managers or better husbands or better brothers or whatever. That's where I feel while you are earning, you should be learning. While you are learning, you should try to earn. And if you are not earning, you should still be learning, because that learning, when you are not earning, will help you to ensure that you will restart the earning process. That's where, every time we get into this situation, I met somebody who said, where is the time for me to learn? I'm searching for a job. So you're not searching for a job morning to night. You do have time to devote either in the morning or afternoon or evening to learn certain new skills. And there are several online courses available. And that's exactly where I feel people should keep weighing the pros and cons and keep looking at the advantages of learning new skills or upskilling ourselves or moving out of our domain area to gather some real good inputs. And this is something that I have seen that when there is a crisis or when there is a problem, we think we should break all the systems and we should not follow any systems anymore and it should be free for all. Well, the free for all is actually a good thing to look at because there is no system around it and anybody can come, anybody can go like a mall. Nobody is asking you why you are entering the mall. You could be entering the mall to go for a movie. You could enter the mall to buy something. You could enter the mall only to do window shopping. Nobody is asking you when you enter a mall why you have entered. It's a free for all. And people generally have a tendency to like this free for all. But guess what? When you actually look at it, the free for all doesn't take you anywhere. There has to be a system around everything. Stephen Covey, in his book on the 7 habits, one of the habits he talks about is being understood or understand first. He says, understand first before being understood. And I had a challenge because it was free for all in my house. And when my wife was talking, I was talking. And whenever I was talking, she was talking. And then I put a system in place and I said, no, this is not getting us anywhere because we are only ending up arguing with each other. So I decided about 15 years ago that when my wife is talking, I will listen to her. And guess what? When my wife is not talking, I keep quiet. And that system is working so well in the last 15 years. We have perfect harmony at home. We don't have any arguments. We don't have any fights. And when you put a system around each and everything, whether it is in personal life or in business life, the pros are more. You will end up actually reaping the benefits of having a system-oriented approach because the pros are more as opposed to the cons. So, in summary, the message that I have carried with all the experiences that I've gained over the last 40 years is every time when we are in the crossroads, every time when we are made to take a decision, every time when we have to make a choice, it becomes imperative for us to look at the pros and cons, to weigh the pros and cons, and take a very, very well thought out, well informed decision. And in my life, I have seen every time I have taken a well informed decision after weighing the pros and cons, I have only progressed in life. And there are occasions when I've actually taken some decisions without weighing the pros and cons, and I've seen those decisions have backfired. That's why when Deepa said he has 35 years of experience, I started thinking probably she is right. Out of those 40 years, I must discount the 5 years because those are the 5 years which I have actually lost in my 40 years by not weighing the pros and cons and by taking some decisions on the fly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. TP Anand, for this interesting session.
Thank you.
We thank you for taking time out to catch us live. For those of you with us today, if there are any unanswered queries, please write back to us on our email ID and we shall revert to you with the speaker's response. Always remember, SixSox Minds is here to serve, learn, share, and reach beyond. We are also here for you and your organization to identify talents and help nurture them. We listen and address your requirement. Do reach out to us on sixsoxminds@gmail.com for this and more. It's a pleasure having you on board with us, and we look forward to seeing you all the week after the next. On that note, see you, au revoir, adios, masalama, फिर मिलेंगे.